for data science, the scope is huge. For data science, man, look, data science has many job opportunities, Ben, many.
So here are your qualifications. You have a Bachelor of Science in Engineering in Metallurgy and Materials. You have a postgraduate diploma in Management, Business Administration and Management from West Business School, and also the Exploring Data Sciences. I think that's what you're talking about, the Data Science Certificate from Explore Data Science Academy. After all of these qualifications, take us through your where did you start in terms of your career? I see that you started as an intern at Siwaju Consulting. Just take us through where you started and where you are now.
Okay, so with that, I mean, so that when I was working as a consultant, I was doing my PDM at the time, my postgraduate diploma. So with PDM, you have to do a 3 months internship in order to graduate. Yeah, so you need to go and be experienced. And one of the reasons is because, so with PDM, after you graduate, so PDM is basically, let me explain what PDM is. Sure. PDM, the Postgraduate Diploma in Management. It's basically more like a mini MBA. Yeah.
Oh.
It's a mini MBA. So remember with MBA, we do those courses that MBA people do, but we do them at an intro level. So they would be, instead of being for like a semester, it would be for like a quarter.
Okay.
Yeah, for 1 quarter. So you do accounting only for 1 quarter. I've done accounting, I've done economics. You do strategy, you do marketing, all those courses that, okay, maybe not all, there will be certain electives, obviously. Not all, but most of them, the basic ones that MBA people do, we do them. That's what PDM is, basically. And the reason I had studied it was because I wanted to be able to go and work in consulting. So in consulting, the reason why most CEOs do MBA is because you want to understand how the business works. You understand? So MBA gives you that competitive advantage to understand how the whole business works. If you're talking of income statement, what is it? And with PDM as well, anybody can do it again as well at business school. And one of the reasons is so that most people were doing it so they can switch. And one of the people, so they can switch careers. And one of the people who were doing this course was, most of them, they were actually coming from biological sciences, the course. Because after they graduated, there were no jobs. They felt there were no jobs. They were studying biological sciences. Then they switched to PDM. And after you switch to PDM, now you can work at Deloitte, because now you at least understand business a bit. Now you can work at Investec. It's no longer that, you from a medical point of view, what are you going to tell? What are you going to understand? So yeah, after that, I worked at Siwaju Consulting for 3 months. So basically we're just doing consulting the small businesses, and then after that, I went to African Bank as an intern. I really enjoyed working at African Bank. I like banking, but most importantly, I like telecommunication companies. Your Vodacom, your Takealot. I like a more tech-structured company than banking. So tech-structured because there's other related jobs related to data science. Your solution architect, your product designer, data engineers, we also have them at banks as well. But yeah, like the reason I like the telcos is because of the other jobs related to data science that you get to learn from different people. Your machine learning engineers. So there's data scientists and then there's machine learning engineers as well. So now I'm at SALGA, which is it's a government entity. And I like that I'm solving different problems now. So, which is one of the things I've always wanted, because I wanted to work in a consulting firm where when you're consulting, you solve different problems. So yeah.
Wow, that's very quite interesting, man. I mean, so you're at SALGA right now.
Yeah.
So you want we're shooting this on Sunday. So on Friday you want to work, right?
Yeah. Yes.
What did you do on Friday at work?
Hectic. So I just started working there. But in a nutshell, so I work with cloud. So the data is based on the cloud. So a simple example I can give you is like sentiment analysis. So you can scrape data on the internet, on Twitter, for example. After scraping it, and you want to understand what people are saying about your company. So I was just playing around with that. It's not my main job though, but they just said I should play around with it just to see, what can we get out of that, So you can do that. Even at African Bank, I've done that, where you want to understand what people are saying about vets. What are people saying about vets?
Oh,
you go on Twitter, you scrape the whole data, and you analyze it. So you will do some natural language processing. So when you talk of natural language processing, you are analyzing textual data, and you want to understand what are people saying about this company. Is it good things? Is it bad things? And if they're saying those things, what are most of those things that they're saying?
Wow.
For example. So it can be able to understand. Let's say most people that are just starting, and they're complaining that at vets we don't have the website, the website is not working properly. I'm trying to apply. Then you get to understand, okay, we have a problem with the website. We need to fix it. Yeah. So things like that.
Hey, man. Hey, you guys are like magicians. Hey. Because I would say, when you guys looking at us, you're like, we know you,
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, like really, I can go and scrape all the tweets that Ben Mahudu has been tweeting ever since he started having Twitter, and we can stalk him nicely and say, okay, Ben Mahudu, he talks about such things. Yeah.
Is that what companies do? Because before we get into a company, they would say they check your profile, your background and stuff. Is that what they do?
I don't know if they don't manually do it. If they don't manually do it, then they must be using a data scientist. But if they are manually doing it, then I guess they're just going and reading one by one the tweets. Yes. To say that, if you ever want or need maybe to feel like you want to host a talk and expand more, because actually I'm planning to start a data science community, and I already have people that I'm speaking to, but I don't want the community to just be about data science only. We will have data science, data engineers, software engineers, all sorts of tech jobs and programming, so that it can be brought. And when we speak with people about data science, they're able to understand how does everything flow into each other.
Yeah.
Because, for example, you can't have a data scientist without a data engineer.
Sure.
Just to give you an example, you see, because a data engineer, what they do is they make sure that the data is stored in the correct format for you. It's cleaned, all of that. And usually what a data scientist wants to do is just start working with the data. They don't want to be saying, I'll give you an example. They don't want to be saying this data has commas in it. Instead of saying, let's say you're looking at salaries, income, but all of a sudden, one of the rows, instead of saying, let's say this person is earning 10,000, it says 10,000, R2, for example. A data engineer is the one that's going to remove those things for you, make sure that you only have just 10,000. The data is clean as possible, and it's correctly structured as well. The structure is also the same. You don't want the situation where, okay, fine, we do have 10,000 here, but on the 10th row, the 20,000, the other R is on the other side, so your data is not well structured.
So then what is the significance difference between data scientists and data engineers?
Data engineers, they don't analyze data. Well, they don't necessarily analyze data for you. What they do is they transform the data for you. They extract it wherever they extract it. They transform it, and then they load it, meaning they store it somewhere. So that they do a lot of ETL work. We call it ETL. So that data will either be stored in a SQL database or will be stored in a cloud.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so on Azure, so on the databases of a cloud, Azure or Amazon Web Services. Mm-hmm. So that's what they do. They structure the data for you in a correct format that you want as a data scientist, clean it, structure it, and then store it. That's what they do. Because remember, companies get data every single month.
Yeah.
So if you're working at a bank, you want to know last month how many people paid well. A data engineer has to extract that data for you from somewhere because it's already been stored. You have to extract it somewhere for you, store it, transform it, make sure it's in the correct format that it has always been, store it on the database. After doing that, then the data scientist is the one that's going to tell us, how did we pay?
Oh, so you guys are like giving to each other.
Yes. So we work together. But in certain companies, there are data scientists who do both the jobs, which is more difficult, which is more work, obviously.
Yeah.
But in a normal environment, you're supposed to have a data engineer doing that work for you. Then you are just a data scientist. You're only analyzing and building models. So a data engineer doesn't build models. So let's say somebody wants to work in in this type of fields, but they don't want to do a lot of coding. That's data engineering that could be for them. It's less code compared to data science.
Oh, yeah. I'm quite interested in finding out what kind of data do you deal with now, where you work. So you are a data scientist at SALGA, which is the South African Local Government Association. Hey, what kind of data are you dealing with there?
We deal with municipal data, so municipalities. So you assist municipalities. So you look at municipalities, for example, they have they need to perform well, right? Respectively.
Mm-hmm.
They need to perform well, each municipality. So we look at them. We can look at, for example, Ben Mahudu has a house. Is Ben Mahudu paying his levies? For example, is he paying his rates and taxes? If he's not doing that, municipality is going to suffer. Instead. And again, if Ben is not paying those things, how can we make him pay?
How do you make them pay, actually?
I mean, you can have campaigns. So, I mean, I just started, so I don't know, like in terms of them, I don't know how they would make people pay. But if you're working in a bank, for example,
sure,
I'll give you an example with a bank, because then I know. If you're working in a bank, we have call center. Call center is going to call you. Ben, you have not paid. You have not paid, Ben. And then they say, make arrangement. When are you going to pay? Let's say you skip about 9 months without paying. At a bank, we have these things where we call recency. We call, what's the other one? I'm already forgetting their names now.
Yeah.
So early already. But what happens is that we count the number of consecutive months. We count the number of consecutive months that you missed a payment. Can you still hear me?
I can hear you. You can continue.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, we count the number of consecutive months where you missed a payment. And then you say, let's say if you missed, let's say 9 months, for example, what banks do, you are no longer in call center now. We send someone to your door.
Oh, a debt what do you call them?
A debt collector.
debt
We take your
collector.
account, we give it to a debt collector. We call them external debt collectors. What they will do then is they will start sending you letters. They threaten you with letters first. And then you don't respond. And then they say, okay, we're going to come to your house with mpeke.
A panga.
Yeah, we're going to come with a panga now to your door.
Yeah.
And then, if you don't respond and all that, you don't make arrangements, they come. And obviously on the credit bureau, the bureau already knows that you have missed 9 times. The bureau already knows that you've been a horrible payer. You are already so you've been in debt counseling.
Yeah.
So before you go into debt collectors, you go into debt counseling. So the bank can already say, no, this person must be into debt counseling because they are over indebted.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are over indebted.
Yeah.
And you'll be surprised. There are people like that. Some you'll be shocked they're earning good money. Somebody be earning 150,000 per month, but they are struggling.
Really?
Yeah. And one of the reasons is because, okay, I wouldn't say struggling in terms of now they send someone to your door, but they keep missing their payments often, or they're indebted. They don't have much of money in the exposure. Let's say there are certain people who, after they get paid, they're only left with 2,000 after paying all of their accounts.
Sure.
Imagine having to survive on 2,000 per month.
Is it the soft life? Is it the soft life that we're after?
It's the expenses, man. People, after they make money, okay, I'm buying a BMW. Okay, I'm going to stay in Sandton. You change your lifestyle, and then that's what happens.
Yeah.
So the banks, they know these things, and they can see that this guy changed his lifestyle. This guy, did 1, 2, 3, and that's why, Yeah.
So one of the important things that you said that we must highlight is the other courses or careers related to data sciences, especially in the tech space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that one. I will go and look for you. I think I have a nice structure. I'll go and look for you and I'll send it to you. But you have, I haven't worked in a tech space because I was gonna nicely give you a flow. Like, you see how I explained that you have a data engineer, extract the data for you. Okay, let me try a bit, but it won't be like exactly typical, but I can try.
Sure.
So if you're working in a tech space, here's the data. Data is sitting somewhere. It needs to be structured, it needs to be stored nicely, right? And transformed. A data engineer goes, let me give you an example with, let's say you were doing a survey and you were actually walking door to door. Or let's say you were doing a survey with your students, even better. You were doing a survey with your students. You created a Google form, or you were doing it manually, like some people do on a pen. After that, you need to store your data, right?
Sure.
Let's say you did it on a Google form. On a Google form, obviously, the data is going to come in different, it's going to come back, maybe not in the structure that somebody wants to work with when they get the data. Now, you need a data engineer who's going to take that data for you and transform it, make it in nice tables. Let's say you're storing it as an Excel spreadsheet. In a nutshell, the person who's taking that data, storing it into an Excel spreadsheet, making sure that it's correctly formatted, that's a data engineer. So whether you store the data as an Excel spreadsheet, you store it on your laptop, or you store it on a SQL database, or you store it on the cloud, data engineer does that. Transform it, extract the data. They extracted it as a Google form. They extracted the data. After that, they transformed it into a nice format. They load it. That's what they do. Then you have data scientists. Data scientist needs to get a problem statement before they solve a problem. They need to know, what problem am I going to solve? And in a tech space, that's where we have people like product designers. A product designer is the one who's going to say, here's a problem statement, and then a product designer says, I want to, let's say a product designer says, we want to have more distinctions now in the class. Now, how can we do that? How can we make sure that we now have more distinctions in Ben Mahudu's class? Then takes that problem, take it to a solution architect, maybe. So a solution architect is the one who's going to draft it nicely for you. Okay, fine. This is how I think you should solve the problem. Must come like this, do this, draw nicely, all those things. In fact, a solution architect also does, so even for storing the database as well, solution architect also sometimes does that, where they will say the data must be flowing like this, you know. Yeah, and then a data engineer is the one who does most of those work. So after the solution architect, this is a tech space I'm talking about. This is not banking. Sure. After the solution architect has done all that, then they will take the data. Then they will take the flow of the problem, take it to a data scientist. This is the problem, and this is how I think should be solved. These are the things you need to follow, the structure and what. Data scientist now takes the data and executes. Analyze that data. Okay, fine. We see that in order for us to increase distinctions, maybe we might need to introduce extra classes maybe once a week, you know, and those extra classes will be specifically for students who maybe don't understand certain things. Maybe the tutorials are not enough, you know. That's what, let's say, you already asked the students actually.
Sure.
Why do you think we are not doing well? The data scientists analyze the data and find out that students are saying classes are not in, tutorials are not enough.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's data scientists analyze that data for you. Now, the data scientists also can predict, after we have those classes, but they will obviously need historical data. So let me explain. So, okay, after that, let's say you now decide to introduce extra classes, right?
Sure.
After introducing extra classes, you see now the pass rate going up, and you're also starting to see more students getting distinctions. Okay, cool. Students are now getting distinctions. So this thing now it's working. Fine. Data scientist now has that data, can see that historically, per month now, we are seeing that students are going up. Now, data scientists can predict that maybe by next year, the distinction rate might be higher than what it is this year. Why? Because they have historical data. So basically, in order to predict, you need historical data to predict. You need to see what has been happening. You need enough data that shows you this is what has been happening. Now you can predict the future. Yeah.
So history is important. Eh?
History is very important. You need historical data to make predictions. You can't be predicting 1 month data. Yeah.
You know, I'm playing this silly game in my mind. I can imagine a data scientist like you, when coming to relationships, you want the history of this person, you know. I mean, that's the historical data.
To make predictions, is this gonna last?
Yeah, to make predictions, to be like, okay, like how does a historical data looks as far as the relationships are concerned? And I'm sure you work it out nicely to be like, I know, I pass. I don't think this thing is gonna work.
Yeah, and if we're being honest, from a logical point of view, it actually makes sense to have that historical data about that person, because you're most likely gonna know if their relationships has been on average lasting for 2 months or 6 months. Let's say for a good 3 years, 2 months, 6 months. You just know that most likely you can predict that it's gonna be like that with you as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of relationships need data scientists. Eh?
Yeah, they need data scientists.
Very interesting. Yeah. The advice that you can give to someone who wants to be a data scientist.
In general, or whether you're a student, from which point of view, which perspective, or
let's say we have a, because yeah, you're right to ask that question, because like you've said that you can self-teach yourself and stuff. Let's
yes.
start with someone who's a student, who, whatever course that they're doing, but now they are very interested in being a data scientist. What kind of advice can you give to them?
I would say to them, learn Python as soon as before you graduate.
Oh, yeah.
The sooner you learn it, and the good thing about programming is once you know the syntax, it's even if you forget how to do certain things, there's something called muscle memory. You can remember quickly. So, and certain problems, they will always repeat themselves when it comes to programming.
Sure.
So you will never be starting from scratch. So I would say to them, start as soon as possible with learning Python. And I'm mentioning Python because it's open source, so it's free. You can go now on your laptop and start downloading Python and start learning. Unlike SAS where you need to buy a license. SAS, companies need to buy a license for that, which is why most companies, they're now moving into Python because it's free. It's a free programming language. You're not paying anything to use Python. Yeah. So I'd say to them, learn as soon as possible, and also start talking to people that are already working in data science fields.
Sure.
So they can mentor you. You can learn from them. You can also get to understand that space if it's for you as soon as possible. Also have a business mind, because as a data scientist, you're not only going to just be analyzing data. It's not a typical situation where you are a nerd in a movie and they say, in a movie when they say, train this criminal, and you're just coding, you're a nerd, that's all you do in that room.
Sure.
No, that's not data science. You're not a nerd. You are a business-minded person. You need to think logically. You need to have logical reasoning. You need to think outside the box. You need to be a business-minded person. So before we give you the data, I spoke to you about payment behavior and all that. I can give you a question and say, okay, between people that are young and people that are older, who do you think is most likely going to pay their account? You see that? Who do you think is most likely going to pay the account consistently? Between the older and the young ones. You need logic to answer that question. You need to logically think about it. So the answer would be, if you think logically, the answer is older people. Why? Because they have experience. They have learned the hard way, if they have to learn the hard way.
Sure.
They've learned their lesson. They've understood the importance of creating a credit profile. They've understood the importance of not missing a payment, because it can affect them in the future when they look for credit again. You see? So that's logic. You need logic for that. We haven't even gave you data yet. This is just a question. So there will be discussions where you need to apply your logic. You need to apply your business mind. So have the business acumen for it as well. So I would say they should have business acumen, have logical reasoning, learn Python as soon as possible, speak to people that are already working in data science or tech space, and also attend seminars. So attend seminars, do a lot of networking in the tech space as well. And in that way, you can improve your skills, because you can be a good coder, but the most important thing is the business acumen, the logic, how you speak. Can you communicate what you've just analyzed? Can people understand it? So if they're not good at presentation skills, for example, they must work on that as soon as possible. Yeah.
The interview process, assessment, the psychometric test, do you guys have those?
Yeah, definitely. Most companies do that. Usually when you start being experienced, that's where maybe companies might not do it, because they know you've had maybe 5 years in this field. But entry level, there will be psychometric test because it's an analyst job. So they need to see how you think. You see, they need to see, do you have an analyst mind? Is this for you or not? So there will be some technical assessments. Mostly if it's entry level and you just graduated, they might not be like, okay, code in Python, because they know most people probably might not know how to code. There's mathematicians, for example. You studied mathematics. I don't know if you had to learn Python when you were studying there, but
it was MATLAB.
You see, exactly. So, but they won't say to you, we're not going to take this guy. They know you have mathematics, you have the theory, everything, you have all that, you have the analyst mind. So there are assessments because you are entry level. They won't be saying code a Python assessment. It'll just be a psychometric test. Could be things like, where they give you drawings and say, look at these drawings, and those type of psychometric tests. There will also obviously be the mathematics ones where you need to do some calculations. But yeah, definitely there is psychometric assessments.
So it then means that, okay, before I go to that question, the kind of advice you can give to people who go for those psychometric test interviews and stuff, because, I'm sure you guys know the insights now to be like, prepare yourself like this. Do they give you case studies even? Like as a data scientist, if you apply for a job, do you get a case study and stuff like that?
Some companies do, yes. But if you're experienced, mostly they just give you the data and they say, do this. So they give you the problems to solve. So they can say, depends on a company. They can say, let's say it's take a lot. They can just say, for example, on average, do you think, after giving you the data, you must analyze it. On average, do you think most people buy during the week or buy over the weekend or buy month end? So obviously, logically, you already know that most people are probably going to buy by month end when they have money. That's logic, right? But does the data say that? So you might have to analyze that. I'm just giving you an example. So they will give you data if you're experienced. And then if you're not experienced, sorry, what was the question again?
The question was like the kind of advice in terms of preparation that you can give to someone who's gonna starting out. Let's say they're not experienced in the interviews and the psychometric test.
Yeah. Okay. I would say they must go on YouTube. Definitely, YouTube is very valuable. Most of us, that's where we learned most of the things. So learn how to. If a company gives you a case study, trust me. If they give you a case study and they say, come and do it at the company, at the office, you're not doing it online. You won't be using a calculator.
Oh.
Yeah. So you must know what is 15% of 350,000. To give you an example, you need to know how to calculate that without calculator. In fact, when I got to African Bank, I was given a case study. I had to do that. You have to calculate, you have to do a case study solve a problem without a calculator using maths. So know how to do calculations without a calculator. The same thing will happen even with consulting companies, pretty much anywhere. In fact, in an analyst field. And the reason behind that is because sometimes you need to be thinking on the spot. Let's say we're having a discussion and we're looking at the values there. We say, okay, that looks like you're getting about 2%. So 2%, that would be how much? You can't be taking out your calculator there in front of the expo. They say, they ask you, what do you think it is? And you're like, if you don't have the calculator there, you need to give an estimation, even if the value is not exact. Just give an estimation, give a range. Okay, I think this 2% would be between this much and this much. Oh, okay. So we will make this between this much and this much. Okay. Yeah, you see. So go on YouTube, Google psychometric assessments on YouTube, how to solve case studies. So you will be given a lot of different examples, different frameworks. There's profit frameworks. There's ones which, I would say they should look at the profit framework. It's a very important one. Profit framework case study. So that would be for looking at, or they can also look at cost benefit analysis case study. Yeah. So that's more around understanding, is the company going to make profit? So if we ask you an example now, do you think this person is gonna, let's say they say to you that here's a situation, here's a supermarket here. This supermarket, they are making this much, and these are the costs. And the costs, they will break them down for you. So you need to understand what is fixed costs, what is variable costs. You understand? But at the end of the day, they make one cost. So you must add them together, right? So they will say to you, these are the costs of this company. This supermarket is buying, they're renting this place, and they're paying this much per month for rent. This is how much they buy, they're whatever. These are the costs. This is how much they make per month. The question then is, do you think this supermarket is making enough profit to stay? Or let's say this supermarket is planning to open here. This is how much we estimate they will make. This is how much we estimate will be the costs and whatnot. Do you think this supermarket should open? Do you think this person should open a supermarket here? Now you look at, that's cost profit. This is the most traditional one that most companies will do if they're giving you a case study, if it's a case study. Yeah, it will come in different ways, but at the end of the day, it's profit framework. Should this supermarket open? Are they making profit? Yes or no? Then you will check. You will do the revenue minus costs. And then if your value is positive, then you know, well, they're going to make profit, then they should open. And they're going to make good profit, yeah.
Wow. So the companies that usually take data scientists, you've mentioned the big three, your McKinsey's, Bain and Company and stuff, like when somebody looks for jobs, which companies perhaps they should look out for?
And for data science, the scope is huge. For data science, man, look, data science has many job opportunities, Ben, many. That's why I cannot even give you, like, you can work at Takealot, you can work at a credit bureau, you can work at a bank, you can work at consulting firm, Deloitte, you can work at MTN, Vodacom, you can work at Mr. Delivery, which is about food, you can work at Uber, you can work at, that's why I said any company that uses data. Any company has data, right? Any company needs a data scientist. So you can work almost everywhere. So meaning, as a data scientist, go on different websites. Look at the big companies and look at their websites. You will find opportunities. And in particular, I would say look at companies that are mostly based in Cape Town, if you're also willing to relocate. Cape Town is a tech hub in South Africa. So there's a lot of tech jobs in Cape Town. So if you're looking for data science opportunities, let's say maybe you're not finding anything in Joburg, look at companies that are based in Cape Town. You can Google that, tech companies based in Cape Town. Look at their data science jobs there. They're recruiting in numbers, always recruiting. Yeah.
Earlier on, you spoke about, coding, and you said something that resonates with me, that if you get the syntax right of the programming language or the programming software, then it's easier to learn. So for someone who's going to be studying to learn how to code, because some they're fortunate they're doing them in their courses and stuff. What is the best way to learn coding? In your opinion?
The best way to learn coding,
you
must code. You must code.
What a classic answer.
So, look, man, let me tell you, the academy that we go to, nobody's teaching you coding and saying this is how you must code. No. They structured the course in such a way that those things, you're going to be watching those videos on Udemy. So you will be watching online on Udemy, somebody teaching you data science. That academy I'm talking about.
Sure.
Yeah. The same thing happens on YouTube. So YouTube is even free. Udemy you pay, but YouTube is even free. You go on YouTube, there's a whole course on data science on YouTube. Python for data science. So if somebody wants to learn, I would say, and they are very much interested in data science, they can Google that. They must say Python for data science, Google on YouTube. A person is going to be teaching you, but while you're watching the video and they're coding, don't just watch it and say, oh, that's how you create the variable. That's how you download Python on your laptop. If you have two screens, even better. If you don't have two screens, then separate your screens into half. Have a video the side you're watching. Have a section where you are coding while he's talking, while he's creating that variable, you're also creating it. You see, then you play around. You understand, oh, now I've printed the variable. I can see what the variable has, Yeah. But obviously you must listen first and then maybe code after. So maybe you can listen in 5 minutes, what he said, do what he just did. That's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah, so it's like mathematics, it's a practice.
Perfect. You just said it very well. Coding is mathematics. You need to practice. If you don't practice, forget about it.
Yeah.